Video game movie adaptation. These cursed 4 words have plagued the film industry for nearly a quarter of a century. While there's been a handful of delightful exceptions, such as the recent Sonic the Hedgehog movies, Tomb Raider 2018, and Pokémon Detective Pikachu, the general consensus was that if you made a movie based off a video game, it wasn't going to turn out well. But things are looking bright as the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie looks like it's going to be one of the most exciting video game movies in a long time. But did you know this wasn't Nintendo's first foray into the movie industry? Not by a long shot. Long shot, that's a Zelda thing. I'm your host for today, The James Rolls, and in today's episode of the Gaming Gallery, we'll be discussing the history of Nintendo movies. To start things off, let's discuss some random fascinating trivia on the Super Mario Bros. Movie. No, not that one. We'll get to you soon enough. That's better. Without further ado, let's go! Super Mario Bros. The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach was one of the first ever movies produced based off a video game, releasing the same day as another movie based off of Hudson's Star Soldier games, both only releasing in Japan. The Great Mission was released 7 years before the infamous 1993 movie, produced by Grouper Studios and distributed by Sochiku. It's rumored Nintendo chose Grouper Studios due to their involvement in the Hello Kitty franchise at the time. The Great Mission would be the first movie produced specifically to tie in with a video game, releasing alongside Super Mario Bros. 2, which would be renamed to The Lost Levels outside of Japan. The plot of the film is pretty faithful to the source material. The movie opens with Mario staying up past his bedtime playing the Famicom. Then he sees a magical princess doing princess things, Bowser kidnaps her with the intentions of marrying her, and then it's up to Mario and Luigi to murder him in cold blood. Okay, maybe not the murdering part considering this was made with a TVY7 rating in Japan. The movie itself wouldn't see a very large release. Alongside never leaving Japan, The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach would see a limited theatrical release, going straight to VHS in most places. And even then, a majority of stores would only sell rental copies of the movie. Renting VHS tapes. Kids today should be glad they'll never experience the horrors of renters never rewinding the movie before returning it to Blockbusters. God, that makes me feel old. Anywho, yeah, the movie is rare. Sochiku never re-released the movie on DVD or Blu-ray, making a VHS copy of The Great Mission one of the rarest pieces of Mario merchandise in history. Thankfully, there are ways to still watch it today, however. Because nobody cares about locking this film behind the Nintendo Vault, fans have uploaded the entirety of the movie online, with 4K restoration projects even appearing in 2022. But what about the movie itself? How influential could this little-known Japan-only movie possibly be? Well, as it turns out, this may very well be one of the most influential pieces of Mario history. Bowser wanting to marry Peach happened for the first time here, later reappearing in Super Paper Mario and Super Mario Odyssey. Riding a Lakitu cloud like in Super Mario World? First time here. Those weird overalls Luigi has in Super Smash Bros. Made their debut here. Mario grabbing Bowser by the tail and spinning him in circly loops? Another debut. Heck, Peach was a frickin' redhead before this movie, but has gone on to become a blonde in nearly every Mario thing ever after this movie's release. Maybe someday we'll see an official re-release of The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach, because for the longest time, the only Mario movie goodness we got outside of Japan was... Okay, let's get this over with. Hang on a minute. Okay, I'm ready now.
Where are we? Yes! Get him! Are you alright? Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game. Rated PG. Starts Friday, May 28th.
In the early 1990s, seeing how popular the Mario IP was becoming worldwide, and believing there was an untapped market for movies based off popular video games, several movie studios had begun pitching scripts to Nintendo in hopes of acquiring the license to make a Mario movie. After seeing a script pitched by Leitmotiv Studios, Nintendo of America's founder, Minoru Arakawa, sent the plans to Nintendo's then president, Hiroshi Yamauchi, for approval. The rights would be sold and production was underway, with Nintendo having little involvement with the project outside of establishing a deadline. Despite the fact that other larger studios were willing to pay Nintendo more for the rights, they'd go on to sell to Leitmotiv for $2 million, on the condition that they'd retain the merchandising rights. And in the film industry, merchandising makes up to a large majority of the potential profits made by a big-budget movie. George Lucas keeping the merchandising profits would make him one of the most influential independent directors in the industry. Pixar made upwards of $10 billion purely from the revenue generated by car toys. So even though the practice was still fairly new to the industry at the time, many larger studios were reluctant to Nintendo's request to retain merchandising rights. Now that the movie's producer, Roland Hofe, had the rights, it was time to assemble a team. The first choices for the movie's director were Harold Ramis, who agreed to meet with Hofe as he was a fan of the games, but eventually declined to direct. Greg Beeman was the second choice and stayed with the project while the actors were signing their contracts, but disagreements between Beeman and Hofe led to his departure, leading the director's chair to be filled by Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel. Probably not the best idea in hindsight, but we'll get to that soon enough. Before Bob Hoskins was chosen, 3 other actors were considered for the role of Mario. Dustin Hoffman was the first to be considered as he was looking to impress his children, and the fact that the first screenplay was drafted by Mary Morrow likely helped, as the two had previously worked on Rain Man together. Morrow's script was more along the lines of a character study, featuring Mario and Luigi on a road trip together, learning more about each other and doing road trip things. Basically, it'd be Rain Man again, but with Mario. Obviously, this didn't work out, as Bill White, who was Nintendo's director of marketing at the time, felt Morrow's more dramatic script wouldn't be a good fit for Mario. Nintendo instead wanted Danny DeVito to star and direct the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The film's fantasy script hadn't been finished yet, so DeVito declined on the role to focus on other projects at the time. Tom Hanks was the third actor considered, and he even agreed to star for $5 million, but the studio deemed the price too high for their budget. So in the end, Bob Hoskins would end up starring in the Mario movie, likely due to his involvement in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But the casting of Mario is nothing compared to who could have played the evil King of the Koopas himself. Before Dennis Hopper would land the role of Koopa, the other 2 actors who unfortunately passed on the role were Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Keaton. Think about it. A movie with Danny DeVito as Mario and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Bowser.
Listen, you little wiseacre. I'm smart, you're dumb. I'm big, you're little. I'm right, you're wrong. And there's nothing you can do.
Knowing this could have been possible is proof we're living in the darkest timeline. With Morrow's more dramatic story turned down, the next plan was to go in a more fantasy route. This story treatment, written by Jim Janoween and Tom S. Parker, focused on Mario and Luigi being transported to another world where they need to save the princess from King Koopa. The Princess Bride and the Wizard of Oz were mentioned to be the primary influences behind this version. But as we'd learn about soon, this wouldn't exactly be the story we'd see in the final movie. So, with the directors on board, actors signing contracts, and the script written, It should be smooth sailing from here, right? Well, yes. If, of course, by smooth sailing, quote-unquote, we're actually referring to the directors arguing constantly, actors filming while drunk, and a script that changed every time somebody sneezed even after filming started. That might be speaking hyperbolically, but still, production going forward only went downhill. The directors hated the fantasy script when they came onto the project, insisting on major rewrites to make the story lean more into a sci-fi setting. Instead of Koopa Troopas and Goombas, we'd get dinosaurs and not Goombas. Instead of a story about rescuing a princess from an evil king wanting to steal her crown of invincibility, we'd get a story about evolution and parallel dimensions. Mario's mushrooms and one-ups would appear in the form of literal fungus, and the focus on dinosaurs was a result of Super Mario World, which was set on Dinosaur Island. Because we all remember that moment in Super Mario World where Mario explores Dino Hatton. No colorful environments whatsoever, just a parody of New York City with fungus and dinosaurs. Nintendo had grown concerned that the movie was straying too far from the source material, but Morton and Jenkel refused to listen to their suggestions, claiming everyone had agreed to the story changes already. Everyone except for the cast, who were never made aware of the drastic changes until after they arrived at the North Carolina warehouses to start filming. And even after filming wrapped, more script changes continued to the point where Dennis Hopper stopped bothering to memorize his lines. Working with Morton and Jenkel led to terrible working conditions on set, as the two would argue constantly. At one point, when adjusting one of the suits for the Goomba characters, Morton reportedly poured coffee on the costume to make it look dirty, burning the actor inside. Morton disregarded the actions, claiming, quote, "Well, it's just an extra." Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo reportedly drank heavily to cope with the difficult filming process, most notably in an incident where they were filming a scene where Leguizamo was drinking before driving, which led to Hoskins getting injured. By the end of production, the movie had gone over budget, and the studio desperately needed to salvage the project. Knowing the movie wouldn't be great, it was felt a heavy marketing campaign would encourage audiences to still see the movie, regardless of quality. And this plan may have worked, if it weren't for...
Don't move. You can't see us if we don't move.
Super Mario Bros. Would release just a few weeks before Jurassic Park, which on top of the poor reception to the movie, led it to only making $20 million on a $48 million budget. The poor treatment on set led to Morton and Jenkel being blacklisted in Hollywood. Hoskins would consider it one of the worst movies throughout his career, and Leguizamo, while still not being fond of the final film, does attribute it to his career success going forward. But probably the best response from the movie came from Dennis Hopper while on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, who was describing his son's reaction to the film.
I made a picture called Super Mario Brothers, and my six-year-old son at the time, he's now 18, at the time he said, Dad, I think you're probably a pretty good actor, but why did you play that terrible guy, King Koopa, in the Super Mario Brothers? And I said, well, Henry, I did that so you could have shoes. And he said, Dad, I don't need shoes that bad.
That is but a taste of our fury. Do you yield? I do not.
With the success of the Virtual Console, Shigeru Miyamoto felt the new generation playing classic games would also appreciate seeing Nintendo characters branching out in other media. This initiative would lead to Satoru Iwata announcing in 2015 a partnership with Universal to create Super Nintendo World. Through Miyamoto's involvement with this project, he'd eventually meet the founder of Illumination, Chris Meledandri, and found that they shared a similar creative process. But Illumination weren't the first to approach Nintendo. In December 2014, emails were leaked during a hack on Sony Pictures, revealing that they'd been in negotiations with Nintendo over the film rights to Mario. While the emails showed the negotiations were going well, Sony would later confirm that a deal hadn't been finalized between the companies. With no further words stated on the matter, it's safe to assume the leak would cause Nintendo to back out of the deal entirely. Negotiations would begin shortly afterwards, with the movie being officially confirmed in 2018. Production would continue with Illumination confirming the Mario movie would be a high priority within the company. And in 2020, Nintendo's current president Shuntaro Furukawa would confirm a holiday 2022 release date, which would later be delayed to spring 2023. During a September 2021 Nintendo Direct, Miyamoto would confirm the casting for the movie. Chris Pratt would play Mario, Charlie Day as Luigi, Jack Black as Bowser, Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, and so on, with Mario's original voice actor Charles Martinet appearing in a cameo. Gator, you're welcome, I said his name right because in the script you put Martinez instead of Martinet. We'd get our first teaser during the New York Comic-Con in October 2022, airing alongside a focused Nintendo Direct. The general reception was positive, particularly with Jack Black's portrayal of Bowser and the film's art direction. Additional trailers were released during Nintendo Directs and the Game Awards. While there's bound to be a ton of Easter eggs across the movie, the promotional materials already showed tons of fun secrets for longtime Mario fans. Several of Mario's poses come directly from games like Super Smash Bros., a toad that references the act of blowing into a cartridge to get the game to work again, and the list goes on. But probably one of the most noteworthy Easter eggs comes from the Super Mario Bros. Plumbing ad that was released during the Super Bowl. The actress who played Peach in the old Mario cartoons, Jeannie Elias, voices the lady who hired Mario and Luigi in this commercial. The website featured in the ad is also real, at least at the time of this video's release. This has its own batch of fun Easter eggs, such as Mario and Luigi's former employer leaving them a bad review, a broken link page leading to a fun pipe minigame, and so on. Plus, you can see the green screen Mario and Luigi used when filming this ad. That's such a great detail. And on April 5th, 2023, the Super Mario Bros. Movie was released.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Gaming Gallery, and stay tuned for part 2 where we'll discuss the history of Pokemon movies, Pikmin short films, the Kirby anime, all that fun stuff. Thank you to the James Rolls for narrating this episode. Be sure to check out his Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon Let's Plays, and comment, "Callie is the best squid sister," in the comments below. Thank you for watching this episode of the Gaming Gallery, and remember that in our hearts, we are gamers.